Okay.
All right, guys, we're back with another What If, and I got this delusional guy on the other side of the phone call here. If you can see, he's got on his face. Oh God, looking like the Great Pumpkin with the orange T-shirt on.
Born on Halloween.
Anyways, we're back.
Take those glasses off. Take them off. No, I'm just kidding.
We're back with a brand new What If. Sorry, it's been a while. Brady's been doing a great job with interviews, so it's just been on postpone. But we are back now. The topic is what if Pride had bought out the UFC? I think it's an interesting conversation because a lot of people don't realize that Pride was the dominant mixed martial arts organization in the world for a long time, and the UFC was kind of second fiddle. What do you think?
By the way, I'm not on drugs right now. Second of all, I don't know. I think they want to. The whole thing was the UFC. I think had more money, even though they were the smaller company. But let's just say the Pride had everything. Let's say they had all the money. They didn't have Zuffa backing them up. What would have Pride done? We would have had the whole dynamic things would have been changed because there would be no more cage. Would we still have tournaments to this day and age where they were fighting 3 times a year? Because I think that won't even pass in the States unless you're under certain commissions. So I think that's why Pride didn't come to Canada and the US as much, because they could kick people in the head and knee them in the head. So the big thing would be Pride would have had to switch up the rule set anyway, because you're not going to be kneeing people in Canada or the States. I don't think they could get that passed. You're right when they said that they did have the better competition at the time. You got to remember, Pride, people are like, Chuck Lear's the biggest one. Chuck Liddell's is one of the greatest of all time. Well, I say Quentin Jackson's ahead of him. Quentin went in there, had Chuck Liddell pussied out of the UFC, went and fought Quentin Jackson. What happened, Marshall?
Well, that he was pussy out of the UFC, that was a Pride versus UFC event. They did that to build up both organizations, and Rampage took his face off.
Yeah, and then he took his face off in the UFC too. Anyway, little off topic. I'm just saying it was a superior brand. Even for fighters, you're having Tank Abbott's fight in the UFC while you had like Fedor in Pride. So they were ahead of their time. If they would have bought out UFC, it's a hard topic for me to go from, because like I said, they would have had to switch up so many things. The rule sets of today's UFC would have been a lot different. There'd be a lot more. I just don't know if it would pass over here. Is the main reason. Do you think the rule set would have passed over in North America?
Well, the first thing I want to talk about is the cage. So UFC did the whole cage thing to try to differentiate themselves from boxing. That's why they did that. Mm-hmm. And try to be like extreme, more edgy kind of. They were on the Spike network back then, if you don't remember. So it kind of fit in with the whole Spike, like Guys TV and whatnot. But when you think about it, the ring is the far superior option because it doesn't allow you to press somebody up against it and take them down from there. You can't use it as a weapon. You can't grate somebody's hands against the fence to make them break their lock. So to be able to take somebody down in a ring is so much more difficult, and it's just so much more impressive. So I think if Pride had bought out the UFC, we would have ring dominant MMA organizations today. We wouldn't have all these other organizations trying to do what the UFC did. So Strikeforce came. They had a hexagon or a different shaped octagon.
Bellator had a circle.
Bellator has a circle. We would have other organizations doing it. Like I think Dream had a ring.
Yeah. Risen has a ring too.
Huh?
Risen has a ring too.
It's just you see far more superior striking in a ring because you're not afraid of someone just pushing you against the fence and taking you down. For example, I think we wouldn't be seeing the Khabibs and styles like that, and the Ben Askrens wouldn't be as dominant in a ring-focused MMA. Do you agree?
That being said, too, is you got to look at. I tend to agree and disagree to the point of the rounds were a lot. There was 2 rounds. One was 5 minutes and 10 minutes. If I'm correct, I could be wrong.
The first round was 10 minutes, but I think there was 3 rounds.
Okay, so maybe like 10-5, 10-5-5, I don't know. Either way, if Khabib was to get an opponent down in a ring, they wouldn't be able to get up as easy in that way because they couldn't use the wall to climb back up.
But his take percentage in the middle of the octagon is like 50% or something, whereas against the fence it's like 80.
That is true. So you would see you would definitely probably see more striking, you're right. But if someone was to get down on the ground, you're going to go get a Coke because you're going to be bored for 10 minutes knowing they're just going to sit on them for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I personally enjoy the cage.
Sorry?
I personally enjoy the cage.
I don't like it. I don't think that it's right because it favors grappling.
That is true.
But okay, so that's the cage thing. That's a huge difference. Another thing that we have to think about is geographically. Pride was in Asia, mostly Japan. The UFC was here in North America. You know how we used to hear for a long time, for like 10 or 15 years, Goldberg and Joe Rogan used to always say, oh, the fastest growing sport in the world, the fastest growing sport in North America. Remember they used to always say that?
Yeah.
They wouldn't be saying that because, yes, it would be big over there, like it always was. Pride and UFC were both big in Asia. But without a North American audience, I don't think Pride would be able to take over here because they didn't speak English. Their announcers did everything in Japanese. The everything was just Asian
and translated.
So it's different.
Their for example, buys would be a lot down.
Yes.
For sure. So I would actually agree on that the sport wouldn't have grown as fast if it wasn't for UFC. That's what you're getting to.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
So far we got the ring would be different. You wouldn't see wrestlers being as dominant, and you would definitely not see the UFC as big as it is today.
And the stars we have today, like Anderson Silva is the biggest star that came from Pride. So he started in Pride. Nobody knew who he was really in Pride, and then he came over to the UFC and started dominating. We wouldn't be having the superstars in MMA we would have today because the UFC as a brand is so much better at promoting their fighters and just showing them off to the world. They're the best promotional company in the world. They shit on everybody. Top Rank, Matchroom. It doesn't compare.
Absolutely. I just said absolutely like that, eh? I gotta just watch the interviews or the Matt Bassett interview, and you'll know why I say that. Yeah, so the whole landscape of things, I don't think the sport would have been. I think you would have seen boxing a lot more growth. There's more growth in boxing, more compared to MMA, if it wasn't for UFC. That's what I agree with.
I agree. I don't think that UFC dominating the market the way it does today is good for the sport, though. I think when Pride and the UFC were both going head to head, we had a better product. The fighters weren't as skilled as they are today, but the organizations had to keep stepping their game up. The cards were more stacked back then. Yes, there were less cards, but overall the product was less saturated and the quality was better.
Now, do you think we would have gotten people fighting to this day, fighting 3 times a night? And how would the fighters like Khabib and Conor and Tony do in 3-round fighters? I personally think you would, if you were to go back to that rule set, you would see superstars that might be top. That is like the guy top 15 might be number 1 nowadays because he is better with that thing. You wouldn't see Conor because he wouldn't be able to go 3 rounds. No offense, and I'm the biggest Conor fan, but he would not be able to fight 3 rounds or 3 fights in one night. I just don't think he has a style to that. So you're going to see other people with better styles being on top of the organizations. So that whole landscape would change.
For sure. And another thing we have to think about is Pride used to do an open weight bracket. The UFC did the same thing, but that was in their early tournament days. The UFC went from the tournaments quickly and turned into pay-per-view model. But Pride had their open weight bracket. And I believe BJ Penn fought Machida in heavyweight in Pride, right?
It wasn't Pride. I think it was Shudo, or it was not Pride. It was another company, but it was very similar in a ring. BJ looked like he was watching the clumps and decided to eat up a little. But shout out to BJ. went up, fought at heavyweight against Chubby Machida. So, you would definitely see a lot of different open weight. I think the whole organization would be similar to where I don't think open weight would be around anymore. That's just what I'm coming to. I think they would have ditched that whole idea.
You're right. Yeah, the open weight would be gone, but Bellator does similar things that Pride does. So you would see middleweights going up to light heavyweight. You'd see lightweights going up to middleweight. You see a lot more weight fluctuations in Pride still today, I believe, than you do in the UFC. The UFC is starting to catch up with the whole champ concept, but they didn't do things the way Pride did, where you just fought anybody anytime.
That being said, I do think in today's day and age, if Pride was the main company, that and there was no UFC, you would see cross promotions where UFC isn't about that. You would see Pride versus Rizin. You'd see Pride versus Bellator. I just find like Dana White doesn't like to get along with other promotions because he's too at risk. You would definitely see Pride do that. I doubt you wouldn't. So, you would also see. I think the heavyweight division would be a lot better because they always found great heavyweights. Not saying it's bad now, but I think that would have been the top of the division. But
arguably the best heavyweight of all time is Fedor, and he had his best days in Pride. So yeah, I understand what you're saying.
But I just think that you would definitely see a ring. The rule set would have had to be changed. I'm going to stick to that. They would have to take away the knees. If it was becoming a major sport in North America, they might be able to say come to Japan and you could kick someone in the head if that's what you want. But if you're fighting North America, you can't kick them in the head. So you'd be seeing different rule sets in different countries. So.
Yeah, I agree. You have anything else to add?
No, I think that's about it. I just think the whole dynamic is it's a weird situation. It's a whole bunch of, we don't know. That's why we're doing What If, and there's just some ideas to talk about.
This is a big deal, though, because when Pride got bought out by the UFC, that's like one of the historical moments in the history of MMA. So it needs to be talked about.
Absolutely. And for everyone watching, I have had a lot of interviews. I've had Dennis Kang, top 5 middleweight, Mark Munoz, great guy. Dennis Kang was a great guy. Matt Bessett's an amazing guy. Cole Miller, good guy. And we got Murillo Bustamante coming. I can't wait for that. I know for sure we got Gavin Tucker, so keep looking out, supporting, liking. Frank Trigg was amazing. So we got more, and stay tuned. And Marshall did a great interview with his boy, who was it?
Montel Griffin.
There you go.
Ice.
I just wanted to hear you say Ice. But he was hilarious. He made me laugh. I watched it live, and then I watched it again after. So check it out. Great interviews. And tell these people what they need to do after this video.
Ladies and gentlemen, we need you to like, subscribe, and share these videos. We're going to keep making them, but we need your support. Make these bigger and better for us. Please tell Brady to take off the sunglasses. And on that note, we are out.